The music was soft, the lights golden, and the clink of champagne glasses filled the air like delicate whispers of joy. It was my son's wedding day. I should have been proud. Hell, I was proud, but I also knew something was off the second I stepped into the venue. There was no seat for me at the head table. No name card. Nothing. I stood there, holding a damn envelope with a check inside, and I stared at the arrangement like I was the waiter who wandered in too far. My heart knocked hard against my chest, not because of the oversight, but because of what it really meant. Right next to my son, in the seat of honor, where I should have been, sat my ex-wife, Candace, glowing in her crimson dress like she owned the place. And next to her was that smug bastard, her new husband, Jeff. Even the damn family dog had a spot. I kid you not. Our golden retriever, Max, was sitting on a custom cushion, right by her feet, tongue out, tail wagging. And there I was, alone, standing like a ghost in a place I helped build. I'd paid for the party. Chose the damn venue because it's where me and my son, Ethan, used to fish as a tradition when he was little. I even covered the catering, picked out his favorite steak with bourbon glaze. I was involved, every step of the way. And yet, in the moment that mattered most, I was invisible. Ethan looked at me from the head table, cold, like I was some distant uncle. And then he leaned in and whispered, loud enough for only me to hear, but sharp enough to slice skin. "Come on, Dad. You always liked staying in the background. You're just back where you belong." That's when it hit me. This wasn't just about the wedding. This wasn't just about the seating arrangement or some casual oversight. This was Candace's final move, the last knife twist in a betrayal that started long before the divorce was signed. I didn't say a word. My hands didn't shake. My eyes didn't water. I walked up to the head table, calm as the still before a hurricane, and placed a small, black velvet box on the white linen cloth in front of Ethan. He didn't touch it right away. Nobody did. The room kept breathing in rhythm, the DJ still playing soft Sinatra in the background. And then I turned around, walked halfway to the exit, paused, and looked back. Ethan opened the box, and the whole room went dead silent. Candace gasped. Her new husband's smug little smirk evaporated like mist. Every guest froze, forks midair, drinks suspended. Inside the box was a USB drive, and that little thing carried more weight than the whole chandelier hanging above them. Because on that USB was the truth. Photos, videos, audio clips, messages, all of it. Candace, in hotel rooms, with Jeff, while we were still married, while I was planning her birthday party, while I was recovering from a surgery she never visited me in the hospital for. She had lied through her teeth for years. I always knew something was wrong. She stopped kissing me like she meant it. Always made excuses to be away. She became colder, sharper, like living with a wolf in lipstick. But I stayed. For Ethan. For the house. For the dream I had of a family that didn't break like mine did when I was a kid. The USB was the match. And this wedding? The gasoline. Candace jumped to her feet. "You piece of SH. What kind of pathetic move is this?" People were pulling out phones. Whispering. Recording. Candace tried to snatch the USB out of Ethan's hand, but he'd already plugged it into the laptop hooked to the projector for the wedding slideshow. What played was not Ethan's baby photos. It was her, in lingerie, calling Jeff Daddy, laughing about how I was too boring and too soft to figure anything out. And then, silence again. Ethan just stared, then looked at me. I didn't smile, didn't gloat. I just walked out of that wedding with my head high and the final echo of Candace's scream trailing behind me like a dying animal's cry. She had the cake, the crowd, the venue, the photos, but I had the truth. And now the world did too. I didn't go home after that. I just drove. No destination, no plan. Just the sound of tires rolling under me and my chest hollowing out a little more with every mile. I wasn't angry anymore. No. Anger burned out somewhere between the third motel and the bottom of the whiskey bottle I found in the glove compartment. What I felt now was colder. Like grief. But worse. Because grief at least comes with some kind of closure. I replayed Ethan's face in my head. The way he looked at me after the video started playing. Not shock. Not betrayal. Just confusion. Like he'd been living in a different version of the story, and suddenly the pages were out of order. Candace had been feeding him lies for years, and I'd been too damn quiet. Too passive. That's on me. I stayed silent. Let her shape the narrative. This sad little husband who couldn't move on. She used to say things like that when she didn't think I could hear her. On the phone with her sister, with her friends, even Jeff once. Mark just lets things happen. He wouldn't fight back if someone walked in and stole his shoes. I laughed it off the first time, until I heard it again. And again. After a while, I started to believe it myself. But not anymore. 2 days before the wedding, I found the burner phone, tucked behind an old makeup bag in the closet, inside a shoebox that was supposed to have Christmas lights in it. Candace never was good at hiding things from someone who actually paid attention. The phone wasn't even locked. Hundreds of messages, pictures, voicemails. She was careless. Or maybe just cocky. Thought I'd never look. There were timestamps of her booking hotel rooms while I was at work. Voice memos where she'd laugh with Jeff about sneaking around like teenagers. And then one message that changed everything. From Jeff. He said, "Can't wait to sit at the head table next to you and your son. I want to see the look on Mark's face. But he still thinks he's invited." That's when I knew the wedding wasn't just a celebration. It was a setup, a victory lap for them. And I had been financing the whole thing like a damn idiot. I called the venue, tried to cancel the payment. Too late. Called the caterers, same story. So I changed plans. If they wanted a show, I'd give them one. The hardest part wasn't putting the USB together. It wasn't watching the videos or hearing my wife moan another man's name while she was supposed to be visiting her dying aunt. The hardest part was seeing Ethan's name in those texts. Seeing how she fed him the same venom she fed me. Your dad's just not trying anymore. He's letting himself go. Maybe he doesn't care. And the worst part? He believed her. I stayed in my car that night, in the parking lot of some gas station 2 hours outside the city. The radio played an old Billy Joel song, something about honesty, and I just sat there, numb, thinking about what kind of father I'd been. What kind of man? And I realized something sick. Candace hadn't just cheated on me. She'd taken a knife to my identity, made me into someone I didn't recognize. And for years, I let her. But that night, sitting in the dark with nothing but a glovebox bottle and a shattered heart, I made a promise. No more silence. No more background. The world thought she left me and traded up. Thought I was the dull, gray ex-husband who just couldn't keep up. They didn't know what I knew. They didn't hear what I heard. And now they would. The wedding wasn't my breakdown. It was my resurrection. I started with her boss. Sent him a discreet little file from a hidden email account. Then her sister, the one who always admired their love story. Her church group. The HOA president who once told me I was lucky to have such a vivacious wife. Her gym trainer. Every friend on Facebook who commented heart emojis on her new chapter post. I didn't write a word. I just let the truth speak. And then I disappeared for a while. Let the dust settle. But the thing about wildfire is, it spreads whether you're watching or not. 3 weeks later, I walked into my old house like I still had the keys, because I did. Candace never bothered to change the locks. She probably thought I wouldn't dare show my face again. She was wrong. The second I stepped inside, the scent hit me. Her perfume, always too strong, trying too hard. And something else, vanilla candles. She only lit those when she was nervous. She was in the kitchen, pacing, phone in hand, yelling at someone. I don't care what they saw. He edited that video. He's bitter. He's unstable. Do not let this get out further. Do you hear me? She froze when she saw me. Like I'd crawled out of her nightmares and into her perfect little suburban palace. You need to leave, she hissed. You have no right to be here. I walked in slowly, dropped a small manila folder on the kitchen island, and looked her dead in the eye. I still co-own this house, Candace. And unlike you, I have documentation. She didn't touch the folder. I could see her eyes darting toward it, though, like it was a live grenade. You're ruining Ethan's life, she snapped. You think he wanted to see that crap at his wedding? You humiliated him. I laughed, really laughed, for the first time in what felt like years. No, you did that. I just removed the curtain. You're a monster. No, Candace. You are. I just stopped pretending you weren't. That hit her harder than anything else. Her face twisted, rage, panic, and something else. Fear. Jeff came down the stairs shirtless, rubbing his eyes like he'd just woken from a nap. When he saw me, he froze, then smirked. Well, the ghost of weddings passed. I ignored him, walked past them both, down the hallway, into what used to be my office. Still had my books, my chair, even my old fountain pen on the desk, the one Ethan gave me for Father's Day when he was 12. I sat down, pulled out the legal documents, the bank records, the emails, and I started assembling the next phase. Because this wasn't just about revenge anymore. This was about reclaiming what was mine. My name, my legacy, my damn dignity. Behind me, I could hear them arguing in hushed tones. She was spiraling. Jeff kept saying, "We'll handle it. He's just bitter. Let them talk." They didn't know I'd already been to a lawyer, that I had started the process of contesting the asset division, that I had proof of her using marital funds to buy gifts for Jeff, that she'd committed perjury in her original deposition, that she was about to learn what the legal system does to liars when the truth comes with receipts. Later that night, I stayed at a motel near the old marina, the place we used to take Ethan when he was a kid. I stared at the ceiling, letting the silence wrap around me like a blanket, and thought about everything. I wasn't the man I used to be, and maybe that was a good thing. The old me stayed quiet, took the beatings with a smile, told himself that love meant forgiveness, even when forgiveness was just another word for self-betrayal. Not anymore. My phone buzzed. "Ethan." I didn't pick up. A few seconds later, a text. "I need to talk." "I'm sorry." I stared at it. My hands didn't move. He wasn't ready yet. He'd have to unlearn a lot of things before he saw me clearly. And when that day came, maybe we'd sit down. Maybe I'd explain how the version of me he believed in was a fiction written by a woman who smiled with her mouth and stabbed with her eyes. But not tonight. Tonight, I needed rest. The storm wasn't over. Not by a long shot. But now, I wasn't bracing for it. I was the storm. A week passed. Candace stopped calling. Jeff blocked my number. Ethan sent another message, longer this time. He said he was processing, that things were complicated. That word, complicated, almost made me throw my phone at the wall. No, it wasn't complicated. It was simple. His mother was a manipulative liar who'd spent the better part of a decade making me out to be a doormat, while she crept around behind my back and spoon-fed him fiction. And I let her. I was done making excuses, for her, for Ethan, and most of all, for myself. The next stage was financial. I had gone over every shared account, every joint purchase, every transaction flagged during our divorce proceedings. There were dozens. Hotel stays in cities I never visited. Jewelry I never saw. A massage chair I thought was for my back that ended up being a gift to Jeff's office. She was sloppy, arrogant. She thought I was too checked out to notice. My lawyer, Travis, a blunt, no-nonsense guy with a face like a tired bulldog, leaned back in his chair, thumbing through the documents. "She's cooked," he muttered. "This is a violation of your post-divorce agreement. If she used joint funds after the date of filing, and you can prove it, we can reopen settlement. Maybe more." I nodded. "I want everything." He grunted. "You'll get it." By Friday, she was served. At her office, in front of the same co-workers she used to brag to about leveling up after the divorce. The look on her face, caught in the photo the process server snapped for documentation, was everything I needed. Panic. Cornered. Caught. But that wasn't the best part. The best part was the email I got that night, from Ethan. "Dad." I talked to Mom. I asked her straight up. She didn't deny it. "I'm sorry I doubted you." It wasn't forgiveness. Not yet. But it was a crack in the wall. I didn't reply. I didn't need to. Let him sit with it a while. Let him replay every moment where he dismissed me. Let him remember calling me dramatic. Weak. Stuck in the past. Candace texted the next morning. "So this is how you want to play it." I ignored her. Then came the call. She left a voicemail. Her voice, venom laced with fear. "You're ruining my life, Mark. You need to stop this before someone really gets hurt." That almost made me laugh. She wanted me to stop now? After years of her feeding on my patience like it was a buffet? No. We were only halfway through this. I met with Ethan 2 days later. Neutral ground. A coffee shop halfway between his apartment and mine. He looked tired. Thinner. Like the wedding had aged him 5 years in a month. We sat down, and he didn't even bother with small talk. "I was wrong," he said. "About everything." I stared at my cup. "It's not about being wrong. It's about how fast you ran with her version of the story." "I know." He looked like he wanted to say more. Maybe apologize again. Maybe cry. But I didn't give him the space. I wasn't ready. Not yet. "You said I liked the background," I said. "Remember?" He winced. "I didn't mean it like that." "Didn't matter. You still said it." He nodded, eyes wet now. "I feel like I don't even know who she is." I leaned back. "Now you know how I felt for the last 5 years of our marriage." We sat in silence for a minute. The kind that stretches, heavy, hard to carry. "She told me you cheated on her." he finally said. I looked him in the eye. I didn't. Never did. Not once. She showed me texts. I laughed bitterly. She wrote those herself. I found the drafts. Sent them from a burner. I have proof. His mouth opened, but no words came. Don't beat yourself up, I said after a pause. She's good. The best. Made a career out of looking innocent. He looked down. Can I fix this? Not today, I said. But you can start. And with that, we parted. Outside, the wind had picked up. Clouds rolled in. Storm brewing. I pulled on my coat, hands in my pockets. It wasn't over. Not yet. But the foundation was cracking under her lies. And I was finally the one swinging the hammer. 3 days later, Candace showed up at my apartment. No call, no text, just a knock on the door like she still had the right. I opened it, looked her dead in the eyes, and said nothing. She had makeup on, but not the usual war paint. This was her vulnerable look, barely their mascara, hair in a loose bun, cardigan draped like she'd just thrown something on. The same look she used to wear when she wanted to manipulate me into dropping something. Cry, guilt, beg, distract, her classic cocktail of performance. Can we talk? She asked, voice quiet, almost rehearsed. I stepped aside, not because she deserved it, but because I wanted to hear what she'd say when she had nowhere left to run. She sat on the edge of the couch, legs crossed, hands folded like she was in therapy. I've been thinking, she started, about what happened. At the wedding, I leaned against the kitchen counter, arms crossed. That wasn't what happened. That was what you caused. She sighed. You think I wanted things to end like this? No. You wanted me silent. You wanted your fantasy. The new husband. The fake narrative. The ex who faded away. I ruined that. She frowned. You are bitter. You think this is bitterness? I walked closer. No, Candace. This is clarity. Something you've never handled well. Her eyes narrowed, but the fake calm stayed. Jeff's threatening to leave. My work's under review. My friends won't answer my calls. You've destroyed everything. No, I said, voice low. You destroyed everything. I just showed people what was already rotting. She stood up, suddenly switching tactics. That same cold fire in her eyes, the one I used to see when she wanted to cut deep. You're pathetic, Mark. You always have been. That's why I stopped looking at you like a man. That's why Jeff was so easy. The words hit like shrapnel, not because they were true, but because they were intentional. She wanted to leave a scar on her way out. You know what the saddest part is? I said, stepping closer, now just a few feet between us. I used to think you were broken, that somewhere under all the lies was the woman I married. But now, I realized that woman never existed. Her lip twitched. You were a performance from day one. Beautiful, magnetic, intoxicating, but a show. One you rehearsed for every man before me, and probably every man after. She slapped me. Hard. Sharp. The kind of slap meant to snap control back into her hands. I didn't flinch. She stared at me, waiting for me to react. Maybe to shout. Maybe to crumble. But I just looked at her, cold and calm. Get out. She hesitated. First time I'd ever seen her unsure. Then she grabbed her purse and walked out without a word. The second the door clicked shut, I exhaled. Not relief. Closure. She was exactly who I knew she was. And now, she couldn't lie her way back into my life with crocodile tears or empty apologies. Later that night, Ethan called. His voice was different, like something inside him had finally clicked. She came to my place. What did she say? That you poisoned me against her. That you're unstable. And I told her to leave. For the first time in my life, I told her to shut up and leave. Silence between us for a moment. She cried, he added. Said I was choosing you over her. You're not choosing sides, I said. You're choosing truth. I know. Another pause. You did what had to be done, he said. Even if it was ugly. It was ugly, but it was real. I hung up after that, but I sat in the quiet for a long time. There were no fireworks, no final victory lap, just stillness. But in that stillness was peace. The kind that only comes after a long war where you stop fighting to win and start fighting to heal. A month passed. I stopped checking her social media. Stopped wondering what lies she was spinning next. People had already seen enough. The messages slowed down. Old mutual friends, co-workers, people who used to smile politely at barbecues and whisper behind my back. Some apologized. Some stayed quiet. A few tried to stay neutral, which is just a coward's way of saying, I believe her, but I'm afraid I might be wrong. I didn't respond to most of them. What was the point? The silence was finally working in my favor. The lawsuit moved forward. Travis kept me updated with clinical precision. Candace tried to countersue, claimed emotional distress, defamation, the usual circus act. None of it held up. The evidence was too strong. The judge took one look at the account history, the hotel bills, the burner phone logs, and gave me a long, hard stare. Not of pity, of respect. Jeff, for his part, disappeared. Word got around that his firm dropped him after a quiet internal review. Someone leaked screenshots from the wedding video. I had nothing to do with it. Karma did. Candace moved out of the house we once shared. Not voluntarily. She sold it under pressure when the settlement demanded repayment of misused assets. She tried to keep the car, an Audi I had helped finance. Didn't work. Repo took it on a Wednesday morning while she was getting her nails done. She sent me one last message. Congrats, Mark. You won. Hope it makes you feel like a man again. I didn't reply, but I did feel like a man again. Not because I crushed her. This wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about rediscovery. About waking up in the morning without the taste of shame in my mouth. About looking in the mirror and not seeing a ghost of myself. I started walking more. Not for fitness. For peace. There's a park down by the water, the one where I used to take Ethan when he was little. I started going there again. Just me, the breeze, the ducks, and the occasional stranger who nodded on their way past. No one knew me. No one looked twice. And that anonymity was sweeter than any public vindication. Ethan came by once. No warning. Just showed up at my door with 2 coffees and that nervous energy he always had when something weighed on him. He sat across from me in the living room and said, I don't know how you kept it together all those years. I didn't, I answered. I just got good at hiding the cracks. He nodded. I keep thinking about that day. The wedding. What I said. What I didn't say. I've thought about it too, I admitted. I was angry at you for ruining it. But the truth is, you saved me. From living under her spell. I didn't say anything. Just let that sit. I always thought you were weak, he continued. But you were surviving. You were carrying all of it. We talked for hours after that. About old memories, his childhood, moments he misunderstood. Times I let him down. Times he let me down. It wasn't a healing conversation, not fully, but it was the beginning of one. When he left, he hugged me. The kind of hug a man gives his father when he finally sees him not as a ghost, but as a man. I stood at the door long after he'd driven off. The sun was setting, washing the street in that kind of orange glow that makes everything feel cinematic. It was the end of something. Not just the marriage, but the story I'd been stuck in. The chapter where I was the quiet husband, the background guy, the afterthought. Now, I was writing something new. For the first time in years, I was the author. Spring crept in slow that year. The kind of spring that doesn't arrive with bright colors and blooming promises, but seeps into your bones quietly, like it's testing whether you're ready to feel again. I was. I didn't realize it until I woke up one morning, stood in the kitchen with a cup of coffee, and didn't think about her. Not once. That silence, that absence of ache. I didn't even notice it at first. But when I did, it felt like exhaling after holding my breath for years. I had a box in my closet, one I used to avoid. It held photos, notes, letters, trinkets from our marriage. Candace's handwriting on birthday cards. Ethan's stick figure drawings. A ticket from the concert she dragged me to on our 5th anniversary, the one she said would rekindle us. I stared at that box for a long time. Then I pulled it out, walked it to the backyard, lit a match, and watched the past curl and vanish into the wind. No ceremony. No rage. Just peace. I didn't do it to erase history. I did it because I finally understood I didn't need to keep carrying it. Ethan called the next evening. Said he wanted me to meet someone. I've been seeing her for a few months, he said, a nervous lilt in his voice. Didn't want to bring it up, while you know. I smiled. I'm glad, kid. Bring her by. When they showed up, I was halfway through grilling. His girlfriend, Ava, was bright-eyed, confident, the kind of woman who looked you straight in the face and didn't play games. Ethan seemed lighter around her, like he wasn't walking on eggshells anymore. We sat, we ate, we talked. She asked thoughtful questions. He smiled the way I hadn't seen in years. And somewhere in the middle of a dumb story about Ethan trying to build a treehouse when he was 9, I caught him looking at me. Not the way he used to, with judgment, or pity, or confusion, but with something else. Gratitude. That night, after they left, I sat outside under the porch light. The air was crisp, I thought about all the nights I used to sit in that same chair wondering where Candace was, what lie she'd come home with next, what part of myself I'd have to ignore just to keep the peace. That man was gone, burned up in the same fire as the wedding invitation, the hotel receipts, the fake anniversary cards. I didn't feel like a survivor anymore. I felt free. I started writing again. Not for anyone else. Just for me. Thoughts. Stories. Memories. Pain that used to feel too sharp to put into words now spilled out like ink. I wasn't trying to turn it into a book or impress anyone. I just needed to get it out of me. And one day, while writing, I realized something simple and devastating and beautiful. She took everything she could from me. But she couldn't take me. Not really. She couldn't take my integrity. She couldn't take my love for Ethan. She couldn't take the truth. She tried. But I'm still here. Still standing. Still whole. I stood at the edge of the dock that evening, the lake calm and glassy, reflecting the last orange blush of the sun. I hadn't been back here in years. Not since before the divorce, before everything fell apart. The place felt smaller now. Not physically, just quieter. Less haunted. There used to be a bench at the end. I'd sit there while Ethan fished, Candace pretending to read, always sneaking glances at her phone. I used to think she was checking work emails. Turns out, it was Jeff. Or someone like him. Hell, maybe there were more. I looked out at the water and smiled. Not a bitter smile, not a wounded one. Just peace. Everything had happened. The betrayal, the humiliation, the unraveling of a family I once thought would last forever. But pain has a strange way of shaping you. I didn't come out the other side untouched, but I came out better, sharper, stronger, and not in some movie script way. I didn't find a new wife, or suddenly get rich, or become some public hero. I just got myself back. And for the first time in a long, long time, that was enough. Would I ever trust like that again? I don't know. Maybe. Maybe not. But I've learned that trust doesn't begin with someone else. It starts with you. Trusting your gut. Trusting your value. Trusting that when someone tries to bury you under lies and disrespect, you'll dig your way out. Ethan and I, we're getting there. We don't talk every day. But when we do, it's real. And real's better than perfect. Candace? Last I heard, she's living in a condo she can't afford, bouncing from job to job. I don't take joy in that. But I don't feel sorry either. She chose her path. I just stepped out of her way. If I could tell anyone going through what I went through one thing, it'd be this. Don't mistake silence for peace. Don't confuse endurance for love. And never let someone who lies like it's breathing convince you that your pain is just weakness. You're not weak. You're human. I'm not angry anymore. I'm not even sad. I'm just free. And damn, that feels good.